Sounds good.
Alrighty, here's some music. It's time for Clubhouse Chatter. Here's Norm Ordez.
That's right. Good morning. Welcome back. Third show of the day. And I'll tell you what, we had Mr. Eddie Diaz on the last show. In a lot of cases, that one's kind of hard to trump. But you know what? I think we could pull it off with this show. We have with us the lovely Jackie James of Girly Locker Room. Jackie, how you doing this morning?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. And wow, what an introduction.
So now, you're in LA, correct?
Correct. Yes, I am.
All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, Norm, I was born in New Jersey, moved to Newport Beach, California when I was 4, where I grew up, and spent pretty much my life doing what I thought I was supposed to do in terms of, went to college in San Diego, graduated early to go start working in the corporate world, and spent 9 years working in the automotive and real estate industries. And something happened where I just realized, hey, there's something more I can do with my life, that I can give back. I can be a part of something greater. And just about, 3 months ago is when the Girly Locker Room concept evolved. And ironically enough, very organically. I've never been a traditional sports person, and although I've had opportunities to chat with athletes and people in the front office, it was never anything that truly fascinated me. However, being a girly girl, I would pretend sometimes to impress guys or relationships or whatnot, but secretly be almost even resentful of not understanding what the sports were about. And just for these last few months, I started chatting with some girlfriends of mine who, unbelievably, same boat. And, one thing just led to another, and all of a sudden I decided to start looking into some of these things and chatting with my girlfriends about, hey, well, what about this? What about that? And it's kind of secret girly talk about a lot of these gals with their husbands or boyfriends, coming home from a long, hard day of work and doesn't want to go to dinner or do something romantic, but then their buddy calls and says, hey, let's go catch a game, or let's grab a beer even just at the local pub and watch a game, and they're jumping at the opportunity, and the girls get offended, and, there's all these miscommunications that happen. So basically, I started diving into it just to learn more about sports, and what I've found is, gosh, there are so many similarities to life. And, I listened to your last podcast here, and it was pretty amazing because I found myself shaking my head along with what Eddie was saying on a lot of things that I have found just in this very, very short time. I've been learning about sports, talking to athletes, talking to people that even have a passion for sports that are fans, yourself included. I mean, watching the enthusiasm that you have for baseball it's a beautiful thing. So that's kind of, where I come from, and my goal of Girly Locker Room is to build something really great that will help improve the communication and the dynamics between women in sports. It can be intimidating for us girls that haven't grown up with it or haven't played and don't understand it. Maybe just see it as, it's an excuse for the guys to go out and have boys' night out or beers and babes or however you want to call it. There's so much more to it that I don't think a lot of us have given sports credit for.
Absolutely. That's pretty cool. So, do you have a favorite sport? I mean, is there one that you like watching more than the others?
I'm just diving into this, but I got to say I'm loving everything I'm learning about baseball. And I've heard the gamut. I've heard people, it's so boring, it's too long, it's this, it's that. I really love it. And I think seeing the way that the fans are committed, and I've had the opportunity now to go to quite a few stadiums and meet a lot of different fans, and it's really, really cool. I love the camaraderie, for every great pitcher, there's a great catcher. I think that's one really important life lesson that I've seen happen there is sometimes, and I'm generalizing, but women are not the best at working together or can sometimes be competitive with each other. And, I have a good friend of mine who once said, I think there would have been a female president a long time ago if women knew how to work together. And I have to say I agree with that statement. And one thing I would observe on that is, for me personally, when I was growing up and I played a couple sports very lightly. I'm talking 8, 9 years old. And ditched it to play house and Barbies and whatnot with my girlfriends. And while the guys were learning teamwork and discipline and, women too, but the girls, not the girls I knew. So anyway, these guys are just very focused, and I think that the teamwork aspect of they don't always have to be the one in the spotlight is really, really cool. I see people surround, huge players like a Mike Trout or an Albert Pujols, but there's still that love and camaraderie. It's not me, I got to be in the spotlight. It's a team aspect.
Baseball is different in that aspect. And I played football growing up. I played baseball growing up as well. My high school we didn't have high school baseball. But working in baseball with the minor leagues, even today, baseball, it's such a, it's kind of an old boys network, I'm still in contact with a lot of the guys who I worked with almost 10 years ago now. And it's like, Eddie Diaz, for example, this morning, there's a couple of guys that I named off that he managed. And it's such a tight-knit community. And, I love it. And like I was saying earlier, I don't know where Clubhouse Chatter's going. It'd be kind of nice to be doing this as a job, but you know what? I'm happy where I'm at, because I get to talk to people like yourself, who's up and coming, you're starting, something new, and it runs the gamut. I had a pastor from Southern California on this morning. I grew up with, he played baseball, and so it's pretty exciting.
And to be fair, Norm, I do have to say I don't know as much about the other sports because since this is so new, and I had the opportunity to shadow some of the broadcasters over with Fox Sports West at spring training this year. So that's really, I've dove into baseball pretty quickly. I haven't moved on to the next sport quite yet, but I will say what I've seen so far. I've had multiple football players reach out to me, people coming to me saying, hey, I love this concept of Girly Locker Room, would love to help you. That's truly what's boggling my mind, is how many people want to help me. And, I'm going, hey, this is purely out of the goodness of your heart. This is pretty amazing. And I have people wanting to sponsor me, and I'm looking at it like, well, how can I help you? How can I pick sponsors and team you guys up to do something that gives back? It's just a really neat thing, and I've never been exposed to that, how sports can truly tie people together. And it's really a selfless thing. And, I'm sure talking to someone like you who's followed sports your whole life, it's like, well, duh. But for me, being, at this point in my life and learning about it, it's really beautiful. And I love what you just said, because that's how I feel, that I have this very calm, really good feeling of, I know Girly Locker Room is my purpose. And I've already gotten so much feedback from people who've said, gosh, I'm so glad you asked that question. I'm so glad, that I'm not the only girl out there that feels this way. And to be honest with you, I have some pretty amazing male fans as well who say, gosh, I've always wanted to say that to my wife, but it's going to cause a fight. And it's so great to see a girl willing to say that, because I don't want to deal with it,
So the Salem Kaiser Volcanoes, low Class A team over here in Oregon of the Giants, every year, well, I don't know if they've done it the last couple of years, but they used to host a baseball 101 for the ladies. And so they would have the manager would actually give like a half an hour to 45-minute class on the basics of baseball, all while you're drinking mimosas and getting pedicures and manicures.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
My experience with women in sports is, they're intimidated because they don't know anything. They don't know about the sport. So, they kind of just go along grudgingly. Is that what you're finding too?
Yes, and it's so funny you say that. I love that you're putting that out there, and I'd love to talk to you more offline about that. I actually had the opportunity to meet with somebody with a major team out here recently, and I asked that question. I said, hey, when was the last time you saw a bunch of girls that come to a game, not because they're dating a player, not because they got free tickets, but just a group of women without men? And, he's been in the business for probably 30 years and said, I don't see that. It just doesn't happen. And I said, exactly. What I would like to do is let's get a suite, or let's get, a big section, and we're just going to do a girly locker room day and bring the women together. We'll do some quick lessons like you just explained, but, the stadium's also going to help out with, hey, we're going to have Sauvignon Blanc instead of Bud Light, make it more for women, and it's less intimidating because we're all together and we can ask those stupid questions. And, I have no shame. I've been so humbled in my life. I have no problem being the one out there saying, hey, I'm an idiot, let's put this on me. And I've found that a lot of these gals are appreciating that, and so are the men. So it's almost like I get to see the elephant in the room breaker, the catalyst there. And it's so cool. And I actually just had a conversation the other day with my neighbor who was talking about athletes. And, she had this stereotypical mindset of what women like ourselves grow up with about professional baseball players. And, it took me 5 minutes to undo a couple of those stereotypes. And, I explained to her a little bit about the farm system and minor league life, and I said, they get paid like nothing, and how much these guys are working, how hard they're working until they make it to the big leagues, and most of them don't, right? Yeah. How much they're sacrificing because pure love of the game and what they're doing. And I showed her some things on the computer of people that are still very positive and smiling and probably bringing home $1,000 a month, and she was just like, oh my gosh, I just thought they were all these dumb jocks that just got overpaid and, screw around when they're on the road. And that's what I'm saying. There's so many negative stereotypes that we hear about athletes. And it's like, wait a minute, do you know how hard they work? Do you know what this whole term taking one for the team means? And I've had the opportunity now to see it in person. And it's really amazing. And I think us girls can truly learn from it. And that's what we need to do. So whatever small part Girly Locker Room can play in helping to make that happen, that's really important to me and to the people that I've spoken to.
It is. Baseball, baseball's like no other sport because it is a grind. And up on our YouTube, the YouTube channel, 9 Inning Know-It-All, there's a conversation with Garrett Brohouse, who's an attorney in Missouri. He pitched with the Giants and Giants organization, and he now is one of the main attorneys behind the lawsuit suing Major League Baseball for the practices, the minor leaguers. You're talking, minor leaguers, some of those guys in the lower levels get like $700 a month.
Mm-hmm.
They're living 8 or 9
to
a 2-bedroom
they can't
apartment.
Afford a place.
Exactly. They eat, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They don't get the proper nutrition. And it's crazy. Even at the major league level, you talk about, where on this planet can I go and harass somebody at their job? Mm-hmm. Professional sports, you can do that. I can't go to some other Joe Schmo's workplace and harass them while they're in the office. Right. But yet I'm able to buy a ticket and I could go belittle a player for his family, his skin color, his religion, any, way, shape, or form. And it's, for the most part, it's looked at as okay. And for a player to go through that on a night every night, it's, they don't, I don't think, I do think they're overpaid, but they definitely, earn the money. They work their tails off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really, when you say that, it reminds me of a friend of mine who recently was going through a really hard time, and, it's easy for people to jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, yeah, he's sucking right now, so get rid of him or this or that, and was going through a hard time personally as well, and with his family. And I had seen something on Twitter that just absolutely made me lose my mind, which was somebody making, a your mom joke, basically, for this guy. And his mom passed away that week. And it was just, and he responded and said, here's the story on my mom. And this guy was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Well, why do that? And that's, I know I'm so new, I'm just learning, and maybe there's more to, I'm sure there's got to be more to that. I hope for the sake of humanity there's more to some of this, ball-busting stuff. And I love having faith and confidence in your home team, but yeah, some of the stuff that I'm seeing in terms of how fans do treat players is, people think that these guys are put on pedestals, and I actually think the opposite. I find professional athletes a lot of times, from what I've seen, to be the underdog when it comes to personal respect and privacy. And obviously, celebrity athletes do take that role, you take the good and the bad. And I'm so impressed with a lot of these people and how they balance it. And their families, their wives, it's not from the wives and their kids, and they get branded just the same. And the pressures of, oh my gosh, what if my husband gets injured? Game over. It's a lot of pressure, and I really admire everybody involved in that. And another group that I think is often overlooked is the front office people. And that's, an upcoming episode that I'm going to be shooting here is kind of taking a look at front office life. And, those guys go through the ups and downs. Just, oh my gosh, it's a lot. And, I truly admire these guys, and a lot of stuff that I see, I think, is very relatable and applicable to real life. We as girly girls just don't connect the dots. And I'm pretty outspoken, so I have no problem sitting down with the gals and saying, hey, here's the real issue. And this is why, because I've already made these mistakes. All of them. Trust me, I've made them worse than you have. More times, too. So I think that, women aren't intimidated to tell me or share things with me or their concerns, because I'm really open about, I've been there. I've made that mistake. Don't give your husband a hard time for coming home after a long, exhausting day and wanting to watch a game and crack a beer. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Right. So Girly Locker Room, so where can we find it?
It's on girlylockerroom.com and YouTube channel, which is Watch, WATCHDLR. Right now, I just put a little preview out there for my trips to Boston and Philadelphia, and we'll have episode 1 up shortly in the next week or so here. And then we'll be going up to San Francisco next to AT&T Park in a couple weeks. So looking forward to continuing, these interviews, and I'm trying to make it a healthy combination of athletes, front office people, live fans, sports bars, people, to answer all sorts of different questions. And I would love to hear from, your listeners, and that's truly what the purpose is to answer questions for everybody. So whether you're a man or a woman, please send me your questions. I check all my emails myself. It's just Jackie@girlylockerroom.com, and that's JACKIE@girlylockerroom.com. And honestly, some of the questions I've gotten are pretty amazing. And I'll give you one example. And then some of them are a little, they're the line. But I'm curious about it, and who else is going to ask if I don't, right? So One of the questions I got, and I've actually gotten it a couple times now, was from men about, hey, these guys get so much crap for being on the road and quote-unquote cheating or running around doing this and that. Well, what do you think their wives are doing while these guys are on the road? Does anyone ever ask, are these wives with these multi-million-dollar contracts and nannies, and, do you think they're just sitting around knitting and waiting for the husbands to come home? Or why is all the pressure on the men and not the women? And I think that's a really interesting question that, personally, I've never heard before. I've heard the stereotype of the guys on the road, my whole life. Have I ever heard a question asking what their wives or the women back home are doing? No. So I think fair is fair. I'm not trying to pick on anybody or anything like that. It's actually the opposite. I want it just to everyone to relate to each other and say, hey, what's good for the geese is good for the gander. And if you're going to point fingers at the guys, it's only fair to look both ways. Look at the whole picture.
Absolutely. So I have a couple of suggestions for you.
Yeah,
so number one is you were talking about getting a bunch of women together and doing the girly night at the ballpark and getting a suite. I would scrap the idea of the suite And I would just get down and dirty, and depending on where you go to watch a game, if you're in Oakland, if you go to an A's game, get out there with the bleacher creatures out there in right field. If you go watch the Yankees, they're in the Bronx, get in there and get dirty with the roll call, the people doing the roll call, just get in amongst the crowds. And that's my other suggestion for you is I really like how you're talking to everybody, and that's what I try to do too, with Clubhouse Chatter is I don't want to necessarily talk with Brian Erickson, the 17-year Major League veteran, but I want to talk to Eve Fuller, who has some questions about baseball, who likes baseball but doesn't know a heck of a lot about it. And I want to, hopefully turn her into a bigger baseball fan. And, continue on with that. Also do the different sports, Don't be like me and just stick with baseball. But baseball is what I know. Baseball is what I love. And, but yeah, do the other sports as well. And don't forget about the little sports, bowling and different things like that. I mean, what's life like as a professional bowler on the tour? I mean, have you ever wondered that? I mean, I see him on ESPN bowling all the time. I kind of wonder what it'd be like being a professional bowler. How different is it from being a baseball player?
We'll find out for you.
Okay.
So, but once again, Jackie James, go ahead and plug Girly Locker Room for us. You there?
Oops, there you are.
Oh, there we go. Go ahead and plug Girly Locker Room for us.
Girly Locker Room, girlylockerroom.com, and I'm also on Twitter and Instagram at Girly Locker Room. Facebook is /Girly Locker Room. It's pretty easy. And the YouTube channel is the only one that's different, which is Watch GLR. So excited, and I totally agree with you, Norm. And just to give you a little teaser for episode 1, I do agree with the nosebleed comment. And when I had this meeting with this particular stadium, this guy had a great point of, you want to ease the girls into it. So maybe we start out, because remember, the stadiums are helping me with this. So
baptism by fire.
It's pretty cool that, maybe we get the girls in baptism by fire. Okay, and you know what? That might be more entertaining, too. So I just might need some more wine.
Get a bag of peanuts, if you go to Dodger Stadium, get the Dodger dogs. Like I said, baptism by fire.
What was funny is this one of the guys I spoke to in Philadelphia was talking about the bleacher section where the real Ranger fans were talking about other sports, and he was saying that as he progressed in his career, now he's got the great corporate seats, but he can't really go to them because he would lose credibility. And he talked about how, from a woman's perspective, I would much rather sit up close in the front row than the nosebleeds, right? He's like, yeah, that's why I got to keep them for the wife, but she can sit down there and take a friend or whatnot. I'm staying up in the nosebleeds. That's where I belong. And it's just a really cool dynamic. And as far as the other sports go, like I said earlier, I've had football reach out to me, hockey, NHL. I got the chance to talk with a 15-year-old kid who got sent to Harvard on a leadership scholarship. And what I think is so cool is he's a diehard hockey player. And I'm chatting with him, and he says, well, I need a backup plan in case I get injured, though, so I'm going to be a surgeon if I can't pull the hockey player thing off.
Nice.
And I'm going, 15-year-old kid, that's a pretty good backup plan, But what's cool is now, I've met his mother, and we're going to follow him throughout his life. And same thing, I've got that plan to do as well with some people in sports to watch their career grow as they cross from, we'll say minor league life to major league life, but it might not be baseball. So we'll fill you in on all that, but there's so many great topics and concepts coming up because of people like you that are providing this great content and topics. So please keep those coming, and thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and Brian, and keep any kind of questions or topics coming. I love it.
Definitely. And whatever I can do to help you out, you've always got a mouthpiece here with Clubhouse Chatter. Whenever you want to come on and chat, just let me know. And if you're ever in Oregon, give me a call and we'll get in touch.
Absolutely.
So,
I would love that. And I will follow up on the professional bowling guy for you. I'll let you know what happens. That's a promise.
that sounds good. Jackie, once again, thank you very much. And we will
You're
chat
welcome.
with you later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jackie James of GirlyLockerRoom.com. You know what? It's a great idea. What do you think, Brian?
I think it's a super idea.
I think it's a great idea.
I didn't get a chance to jump in there. You guys were having a great conversation, but my wife, who highly educated, went to a football camp at Willamette University probably 7-8 years ago. Her and one of her really good friends, they went there. I got it for them as a gift for Christmas, and they spent all day. They ran routes. They learned plays on what to do on the offensive line. The defensive, they played offensive line, played defensive line. They got to know, they got to work with the quarterback coach. They got to work with the receiver coach. The triangle, she knows what that is. And they ran wind sprints. They ran plays. Totally opened her eyes to football. She always liked football, but now she really has a better understanding of the game. They went to drinks afterwards, the happy hour over across the street from Willamette University, had a great time, played on the turf, and she totally, it has changed her liking of football to almost a love of football because she understands the game now.
Nice. That is really cool. That is really cool. So once again, I'd like to plug my sponsors, baseballdudes.com, Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver. We also have Mitch Canham with basebypros.com. Mitch Canham with basebypros.com, you can get baseball instruction for like $49 for your subscription. Now, if you go to baseballdudes.com, they offer some stuff for free. And so, check them out. It's great gift ideas. Mark Canham, Mitch's dad with MDM Design, does my shirts, sweatshirts. Baseballism.com. Go to baseballism.com. Go buy some stuff on your checkout. Enter Clubhouse Chatter, and it'll save you 15% off on your order. We are streaming live on yamhilltoday.com. Every Thursday we have shows. We are streaming live. We are part of the 9 Inning Know-It-All crew. And you know what? I have not butchered this all day long, which I normally butcher it, but you know what? Go see Carlos and the boys down at Proper Cuts Barbershop down on Baker Street. You know what? Tell them you heard it here. Carlos, you might be able to save $1 or $2. So I'm Norm, and we will be back for a 4th show coming up soon. Thank you for watching.